Top of the morning, my fellow peasants! How you all doing? So, Final Fantasy VII Remake news. I consider myself thoroughly shut up. I was recording a video previously about how Square Enix, they need to make a statement. They need to tell us, for better or worse, what's going on with the project. It sounded just as entitled as you can imagine. You know, for a game that we saw 3 years ago, I do think we at least deserve to know where it's at. And previously, I think this was about a week ago, I had news from Nomura, and it was simply him saying that Final Fantasy VII Remake is no longer in the early concept stages, and it is indeed in development. Well, great, fantastic. Oh gosh, I mean, I didn't cover that because it was such a trivial, broad, generic piece of information that it actually did more harm than good because it was so generic. Now, you can imagine there was a lot of fans hearing that a game dev saying it's not in the early concept stages. What their mind tells them, oh, it's just gone into development. It's just gone past the concept stage, and that the project really had backpedaled from the CyberConnect fallout. And I didn't really feel that. I didn't really buy that. Kind of an excuse for impatient FF7 fans to instantly jump to the absolute worst and have a right good bitch. But now, here this week, we have some more news, and it's not that much, but Tetsuya Nomura spoke with Famitsu in an interview in this week's one, and all I've got so far from the news is the highlight of that interview. I don't know if there's any more depth to it or any more context. The full translation isn't out at the part I'm recording this, but we do have the highlights, and it does instill some confidence. So starting with Square Enix are currently planning when to release the next news for Final Fantasy VII Remake. Okay, you're just planning now when to do it. I don't know if that's kind of a hint at Tokyo Game Show, but Nomura saying they're planning it, that sounds like you're slapping together some sort of trailer. That's exciting. At least it's now in their mind to actually start telling us something. The second is its direction was decided before switching to internal development, and its production progress is going favourably. Now that's an interesting one. I mean, the second part's great, but the first part, that its direction was decided, I don't know what they mean by direction. Do you mean direction in terms of the graphical fidelity, which you recently only told us you have improved? And you know, with that, there were lots of people who thought that, oh, they're just upping the quality now because the CyberConnect fallout and having to backpedal. So they might as well redo it, and as they redo it, they're going to improve it. Well, this seems to say otherwise. So the CyberConnect fallout hasn't changed the direction, and it all going internal. Though really how much the combat system, the world format, the story, what they're keeping, what they're cutting, I'm pretty sure that's going to be constantly evolving and changing, and that hasn't been set in stone since 2015. And that's why I can't wait to see a trailer. I've said it before, I really think we're going to see a heck of a lot of differences. And one of those we already know is how the characters look. But now for the third, and this is the one I'm most excited about. And I was just talking about it the other day, about how we've been hearing dialogue from Square Enix about how faithful they're keeping it to the original, the tone and the things they're keeping versus the things that they're going to be changing and expanding. I did that video just a few days ago, and here we have it. The scenario will keep the original version's atmosphere intact and go into greater depth for its characters, starting with the members of Avalanche. Oh, I mean, now this isn't actually the first time we've heard this. We've actually heard them talk about going into some of the members, like Jesse, Wiggs and Bedge. Why do I always say that? Wiggs and Bedge. Jesse, Biggs and Wedge going into their story. But what story is that? And are we to assume that that's just them? That this is such an expanding point that could mean a bazillion different things. It could be something as harmless as how they got together, how Tifa, when she came down from Nibelheim, how she met Barrett and the Avalanche accepted it in. Maybe they'll go even a bit further. Where did this particular unit of Avalanche form from? You know, if we start going into that, we start going into the before Crisis Core territory, where met with one of the real ringleaders of Avalanche, which is Elf. Now, Avalanche isn't something that these guys created. This is an organization that is throughout the compilation and universe of Final Fantasy. It's almost been on the level of the Turks at some point. It's an organization, and there is a wealth of backstory there, but whichever route they go, whether they just keep it on the character levels and their backstories, or they blow it crazy and out of proportion, either way, that's really exciting, and this is just a precedence for all of the other things that they could be thinking of doing, all the other places and people and events within Final Fantasy VII that they could be considering on changing and expanding. And I am so excited for that. So more confirmation that they're looking to keep that atmosphere there, but that they're going to be making changes. And the fourth and final point is the development is moving along more than expected. So please wait for the next announcement with no worries. I want that to be a genuine sigh of relief. I want to believe him. I really do, but I'm going to say it as much as I'd like to. I don't know if I can. And that's simply, even if we go back to Versus 13 days, we used to have reports back then from Nomura saying that the project was going well, that the groundwork was really coming into place. And they gave off all these trailers and they gave off this impression that it was really coming together. Now, whether it was, or all we do know is that when Tabata came on, he came out and said that the thing was barely even 30% through production. So when you look at it like that, I don't really know if this is just kind of an empty, hollow assurance from Nomura. It does at times talk a good game, and it does seem sometimes unrealistic to me. Things like him saying it's actually an advantage that he's working on Kingdom Hearts 3. I mean, I get the sentiment of it, that there's various interchangeable aspects between these two games, but in no way can any director say that directing two of the most anticipated titles of all times and the biggest games throughout Square Enix's history with the most amount of pressure and expectation. I don't see how any person with that much burden on their shoulders can say it's an advantage, but it does kind of tie into Nomura also saying he's not much of a social person. He doesn't actually like human relationships. Which I'm not surprised about. He is a bit of a work addict, and these games are the kind of thing he really dedicates his life to. So maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe things are way peachier than most of us have been expecting, especially coming out of E3. There's been a lot of doom and gloom, doomsday, FF7R apocalypse kind of dialogue happening since E3. I admit I'm somewhat guilty of it myself. But if we're going to take anything main from this interview, it's that Square Enix have once again come out publicly and teed our expectations up. To see something new soon, a trailer, I shouldn't say soon, that could be 6 months, don't get your hopes up too high. But does this all sound a bit more favourable to 2020 rather than the abyss of 2024? Yes indeed. So there it is, don't pepper thy Anguses quite yet, no need to buckle up. Just stay chill and see how this plays out. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Until the next video. Kubo!